Hello YouTube, this is Chaldean coming to you pre-record from his camper. So, with the first video establishing the Lord that rules over this domain of society and therefore the proper nature of schooling, it's time for me to go into the macro structuring of education. As is somewhat established in the first video, Jupiter rules over the romantics of schooling, the adventures and the arts. But that's not what all of schooling is it? There does have to be rigor. There does have to be testing of a sort, but not in the way that Saturn would have it. This is probably part of the confusion that the previous video would cause. If I watched it myself, I would think that I was advocating for a hippie paradise where it's all about free learning and, frankly, lack of focus. I stand by that. Of course, it's hard to learn anything practical in an environment that's all about exploring the cosmos. Saturn's way of learning makes sense because, for better or worse, at least it maintains a level of cohesion and simplicity in an ever-expanding populace and curriculum, with all the micro differences that evolves from that over time. This is where Jupiter's concept of the master-student relationship comes in, but even then, it's a matter of mastering what and in what manner, and what's the point of mastering the thing? Well, Jupiter is half the answer. As it can be seen in the example of master-student, Mercury is the other half. Using the conception of Chaldean economics and money as an example, Saturn isn't the only one who has dominion over this field. The Sun and Moon is also involved, as well as Uranus. It's the same here with Jupiter and Mercury. In astrology, Gemini and Virgo are in opposition to Sagittarius and Pisces. This creates a dichotomy between these two lords that pits irrationality with rationality, and what they mean in the learning environment. The reason why Saturn's way of schooling has probably been the way we've done it since schooling first began, really, is because of the complete disrespect of the irrational in an academic setting. With this being said, seeing as both lords are rationally based, i.e. rule within the realms of earth and air, the reason why I say that Saturn is the basis for our education now instead of Mercury is because of the modes that they both function in. Saturn rules a fixed and cardinal sign. Mercury rules two mutables, same as Jupiter. This translates to firmness, rigidness, and goal setting with Saturn, always looking to get the next degree or grade. With mutable signs, it's much more about trying things on and seeing if it works than moving on. With Mercury, Gemini and Virgo are much more about exploring the mechanics of things, what makes it functionally tick, what triggers its neurological reactions. In other words, Mercury is much more about exploring the potential of effectiveness and the details of it rather than just reaching the goalpost. It's about the journey, not the destination. Jupiter is the same way, but through artistics, not scientifics. Mercury is focused on reinforcing what is currently established. The reason why I state reinforcing and not learning is that because Mercury rules the nervous system, and that it's a rational planet, it's more focused on training your nervous system how to do an established science rather than discovery, which is more in Jupiter's realm, and to a degree, Uranus and Saturn. These two are, after all, considered to be more of a grandparent figure to Mercury, focusing on things of a more complex nature like physics or chemistry. Jupiter would be more of a proper academic institution that's interest is in more theological, epistemological things, stuff of a more unmeasurable nature that can only be experienced in the outer or inner world. This also brings in Neptune, being the co-ruler of Pisces in modern astrology, Neptune's nature would be much more mystic oriented than bright Jupiter's more straightforward way of doing things. Neptune deals more with things of an escapist nature, exploring the unknown in the confines of the underworld or subconscious, as we call it today. Now, into more micro details, just as I realized that Chaldean economics doesn't involve just Saturn, Uranus, the Moon, and the Sun, but all the lords, due to it functioning through all four of the pylons, all the way up to the One, education is much the same way with Jupiter, Neptune, and Mercury, Uranus. It then transfers up to a holy triad of spirit, mind, and body. Spirit being exploration, mind being knowledge, and body being conditioning. With the scale pillar, the scale to which all three of these are measured on, being a dichotomy between romanticism and pragmatism. It then transfers to the singular one, which represents the ideal. Whatever the ideal may be is dependent on the focal archetype of the society in question. The archetype being an aspect of the governing lords above. So finishing off, how is this broken down further involving all the lords in question? This is where the interesting part comes in. I use the astrological houses to get a better understanding of what the focal point should be for a person during what period in life they are at. The first, second, third, and fourth houses are what I would consider to be the id houses, using Sigmund Freud's concept of the id, ego, and superego to best explain this. The id houses represent the lords that would be concerned with a person's childhood. In Chaldean education, this would be considered up to the age of 12. This then transitions to the ego houses, the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, all of which deals with the transition period between childhood and puberty. Puberty not considered to be done until the age of 27 to 30, the period that is marked by a person's Saturn return. The 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th houses are the superego. This is the period of puberty all the way through adulthood. Adulthood not considered to be over until the second Saturn return, roughly around 54 to 57 years old. At this stage, the cycle is complete, representing grand adulthood, where now the grandparents become like the teachers to the next generation, now being able to embrace all the previous houses explored and to teach what they have learned to the next generation in whatever holistic way they see fit. This may seem too vague to explain anything, and it kind of is on purpose. The issue when addressing education is much the same as Jupiter. It's so vast and multi-layered that to create a system so specific would destroy the point of a Jupiter-based system to begin with. It's just too big to get into super specific details, and that's how it should be. It needs to be something that allows for the individual to play in and discover, not forced into and dogmatized through very strict doctrines. This video's point is to focus on the structuring that promotes those ideals. The next video I make on this topic will go into much greater detail of the houses, the lords, and the rationales that rule them, and what is to be expected from such focal points. Until then, thank you, dear listener. If you like the video and my writing, I suggest checking out my library on Facebook through Google Cloud. My book, Warren, is a set of stories placed in the world of Warren and heavily influenced by many different ideas and beliefs that I hold in both high regard and close to my heart. Again, thank you for your time, and I look forward to lecturing you again in the next video. Bye.